It's Locked On NBA Game Night for Tuesday, February 4th. The Celtics are back, and so is Joel Embiid, plus a collapse in Chicago and a crazy ending in Brooklyn.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
Welcome to Locked On NBA Game Night. Every game, every night in 30 minutes. Wes Goldberg here with Tony East. However, you might be tuning in on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. Thanks so much for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Today's episode is sponsored by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Great show for you this Tuesday night. Joel Embiid is back. The Trailblazers might be good. And we have a wild ending to a big Nets win over the Rockets. But we're going to start with our marquee game of the night. Celtics-Cavs, Part 3. One of these teams is going to take the advantage on the season series. They play their fourth and final matchup later this month. But the Celtics get this one 112 to 105. Big time game for the Celtics. I thought maybe one of their most complete games of the season. What really stood out to me wasn't the shot making necessarily, Tony. It was their defense. I thought they held Darius Garland in check. It was not a great game for Evan Mobley. Donovan Mitchell did his Donovan Mitchell thing. He really went off. But to me, when the Cavs are relying on Donovan Mitchell, that's kind of when they take a step back into what they were last year and less of what they are this year. They kind of are more of an ensemble these days. And so credit to the Celtics defense. They looked more like the defense that they were last year. And this is why you can't write off the Celtics. Not that anybody's writing off the Celtics, but when they kind of kick it into this gear, they have shown on big games in big stages that they can kind of revert back to the dominance that they had last season.
Yeah, it comes down to their defense to me when they get to that level. Like their offense was historically great last year, but when they guard a split, they look awesome, and they just need like one non-star player to step up. In this game, it was fourth quarter Derek White, who was unbelievable for the final 12 minutes of this game. And so I wouldn't say their defense was like exceptional in this game, but they forced 13 turnovers. The Cavs couldn't get anything going from deep. They're the first team to really limit Mobley in a long time, who's been playing at a star level for the whole season, really. I mean, it's hard to do that against this Cavs team. And yes, Donovan Mitchell tried to do the superhuman thing, and he started the game off with an insane dunk, and he tried to use that momentum in the fourth quarter. And to his credit, he played great in the fourth. But I agree with you that part of what's made them so good is like things we've talked about when we watch them, because they're on national TV a lot, is like Evan Mobley's passing has taken a step forward. All the timing of these little duck ins and outs that Jared Allen does. And like Garland has been exceptional. He's an all-star this season, right? Like they're a team package. And Mitchell was great. This is not to crap on what he did in the fourth quarter, but they didn't ever get to that identity in this game, and they didn't look like the Cavs team that's been such a buzzsaw all year, and the Celtics deserve a ton of credit for that.
We got a couple of days before the trade deadline here. No Dean Wade for Cleveland, so I don't. Max Strus starts for them. Their bench was outscored in a very big way in this game. I mean, this was a classic Celtics game from last year where their bench just sort of overwhelms you and their depth overwhelms you. Throwback game for the Celtics. But with the Cavaliers, I thought their depth has been a overall strength for the most part, but I kind of have questions about their depth against top teams, especially if Boston looks like this. Do you think that the Cavs need to make a trade before the deadline?
They could use a wing for sure, I think. A good shooting wing, especially. You know who else could use a good shooting wing? The other 29 NBA teams, in theory. I mean, the Cavs are in a better spot to do it, right? They have most of their stuff for the future outside of what they traded for Mitchell, and they have this Jalen Tyson kid who's pretty good, right? So they have ways to wiggle into a deal if they could find the right player, but that's the hard part is what is it? You know, are they really at a spot where they feel like they need the final piece? Like, is Cam Johnson that guy, for example? Like, that's the kind of thing I feel like they could really use an upgrade. Unfortunately, I have a sad, sneaking suspicion that the Cavs might be in a get under the tax mode. And if that's the case, how are they going to handle trades in that? That would just suck. Like if you're first in the conference and you just trade away a player, but that might be what they're thinking. They're so close. So I think they are in position to go both directions this week, honestly. And I think they should be buyers. They're great and they're like a piece away, but who knows what they'll do. Teams that are this close to the tax tend to get under.
So no Isaac Okoro in this game either. It felt, and they could have used his defense, but
Badly.
it really feels like they need, like they have that Niang Okoro spot that feels like the obvious place to upgrade. Or do we really trust those guys? Like defensively, offensively, they're kind of one or the other. Dean Wade is really good for them, but are we trusting him to guard like against the Celtics, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum? If they can get one guy, one wing who's more of a two-way guy at that spot, that feels like the move for them. Maybe they could also use a backup big in case Tristan Thompson plays too many minutes and it's not a lot. And so I do wonder if those are kind of the moves that they could make. If they're really going to go for this thing, that feels like the obvious place to do it. But let's get to our next game. We're going to go to Philadelphia, where Joel Embiid made his return after a 15-game absence. This is a weird one. 29 points, 11 rebounds, 10 assists, triple-double. He hits the go-ahead layup with 22 seconds left, wins the Sixers the game. But here's the interesting thing, Tony. He was a minus 12. Defense was a big problem for him in this game. He was slow. He couldn't move. He couldn't get up for rim protection. He got hunted over and over again by not just Kyrie Irving, who went off in this game, but by like Dante Exum in this game. Do you think that this is a problem, or do you think that this is just what we should have expected with Joel Embiid? He missed so many games. This is what it looks like when he's coming back after being away for so long.
Yeah, a lot of important context for this triple-double. First of all, you don't have 29, 11, and 10, and you played bad. Like, he played well. His defense was not particularly good. He's been less mobile all season, very obviously, and this was his first game back. 5 turnovers also was killer for him. They were crowding him on the catch a lot in this game to try to get him to get rid of it, especially when Maxey wasn't on the floor. I mean, it's so hard for the Sixers to go Embiid, no Maxey with the team that they have, and they didn't have Caleb Martin either because he was on the other team during this game, which was quite interesting. So he still, like, I thought, played a fine game. But the context that is really important to note is, 1, Derek Lively did not play. 2, Maxi Kleber is on the Lakers. 3, Daniel Gafford got hurt in the middle of the game. So very small Mavs, right? Very small Mavs in terms of who they could put on him. Najee Marshall played the 5 at times. Kyler Kelly, who they signed to a 2 a couple weeks ago, is playing the 5 at times. Those guys, like Gafford, played a lot of the game. I'm overselling how much his injury was a factor, but they had to play small out anyway. So he had some easy, like his last basket was comically easy. That layup you just mentioned to give him a lead. He just caught it under the basket and like he was crowded, but he just stood up and scored. So his offensive night was good. I think if he gets a little more speed or in shape, he'll look a lot better. But I thought Maxey was the story for the Sixers. He was awesome in this game. They just ran into a Mavs team that's like in the process of flipping over their whole team and has no centers. And it'd be great if Embiid can play like this every night, but he's got to be faster than this because his defense was not good.
This to me is a problem. I'm concerned. To me, this doesn't look like conditioning for Joel Embiid. This is just look how he looks physically limited. And you know, you have to, this shouldn't be a conditioning concern, right? Like you've been away this long. You don't come back to the court until you're ready to play, right? You've got ramp up periods. You've got a warm up period. He should be fresh, if anything. And even when he has, in the few games that he has played this year, he has looked this limited. Like when was the last time we saw a great-looking Joel Embiid? That's my concern. But let's go to the Mavericks part of this. They're going through a lot right now, obviously. Anthony Davis at the game, sidelined with the abdominal injury, so wasn't there, but was on the team bench. The other guy they got from the Lakers, he did make an impact. Here's Nick Angstadt from Locked On Mavericks with more.
Dallas Mavericks fall to the Philadelphia 76ers, and just so many mistakes in the clutch moments of this one. Kyrie had to travel with 2 minutes left. Clay forced a tough transition corner 3. Kessler Edwards had a really bad turnover on a pass. Kyrie got a steal, but the Najee Marshall got blocked in transition when he could have just passed it back, and that would have been an easy bucket right there. Then another drive where Najee Marshall tried to get fouled and didn't get it and missed the shot. And then Dante Exum loses the ball at the very end, and they don't even get a shot off in the last second. Brutal for the Dallas Mavericks. Kyrie was excellent in this one. 34 points, 9 boards, 4 assists for him. 10 of 11 from the free throw line. He doesn't get to the line that often. It really looked like he took the mantle of being the number 1 scorer for the Mavericks. Daniel Gafford left this game with a shoulder issue. That really forced them to play small, which was tough too. But Max Christie, 32 minutes, 15 points, hit all 4 of his threes, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, some really clutch moments too. A tough fadeaway jumper. He's a real player for the Dallas Mavericks.
What are your thoughts on Max Christie for Dallas?
He's a real player for the Mavericks. It's absolutely right.
And
it makes it easier for them to it makes it easier for them to try to Quentin Grimes when they just get a wing who can kind of shoot and kind of dribble and kind of defend. And he can only kind of do that stuff right now, but he's pretty young, right? Like if he can grow into that at his size, it's a pretty valuable player. Really great debut though. He looked really good in this game. I was very pleased watching him from afar that he looked good because they needed any good vibes in this game. Their other good vibes guy, Dante Exum, was awesome until the very end of the game, like you said. So Dante Exum just got back from injury. They got a bunch of new players. The new look Mavs.
Are we underselling the vibes in Dallas? Or
no, we're
not.
Actually,
no, okay,
we're not. We're not.
Okay.
They're playing bad because Lucas was hurt and is now gone. And Wes, no one has said this about the Mavs somehow. They're in 11th. Yeah. They're out of the field right now.
Oof. So maybe not. My favorite thing about the Nico Harrison press conference was how many times he went out of his way to point out that they also acquired Max Christie when they traded away Luka. It's like, what just did we also got this Max Christie guy?
Oh, they traded away Luka. That's right. I forgot about that.
They did. That was sort of a big deal. Coming up, we got a lot more from our Tuesday night of hoops. The Heat collapsed in Chicago. The Blazers might be good now. All of that and more coming up next. Today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night is brought to you by Game Time. Looking for tickets for your next big event, whether it's a concert, a comedy show, or a sports game, finding the right tickets at the right price can be a headache, but with Game Time Picks, it's never been easier. Let me tell you how it works. With Game Time Picks, the app does all the work for you. It curates the best deals so you don't have to waste time searching through endless ticket listings. Look, I've been using Game Time Picks for a long time. Here's why I love it. The curated deals makes it super simple to find great tickets at a great price. No more sifting through thousands of options. I recently grabbed a super deal for a prime seat, and I couldn't believe the value. It was a steal. The seat view feature is a game changer. Before I even hit buy, I could see exactly what my seat will look like in the venue. It is reassuring. You can't get ripped off. And the best part, you're covered with Game Time's lowest price guarantee. If you find a better deal somewhere else, they're going to refund you 110% of the difference. Plus, your tickets are guaranteed to be delivered on time with easy cancellation options if something else comes up. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA, LOCKEDON NBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thanks for making Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen every day. It's every game, every night. The best way to support the show. Subscribe on YouTube and follow us on your favorite podcast app. Tony, both of our teams played tonight, so this segment is about that. We're going to start with my team. Let's go to Chicago, where the Bulls come back from 13 points down in the fourth quarter to beat the Heat, 133-124. I recapped this game for Locked On Heat, and this was a weird one. All right, Chicago started the game with 4 point guards and 1 center in the starting lineup, and it didn't work. The Heat got out to an early lead. They were in control of this thing for 3 quarters. Then Miami's defense collapses in the fourth quarter. They start turning the ball over all the time. They could not make a shot down the stretch. And my takeaway from this one, Tony, is this is what happens when your team, A, lacks high-end talent. In Miami, obviously, no Jimmy Butler right now. And B, when you don't know who your best 5 are, and maybe even more specifically who your closing 5 are. Terry Rozier played over Haywood Highsmith in this game. Rozier's been struggling all year. This isn't new. And he was really struggling in this one. Couldn't make a shot. And then Miami's perimeter defense, I thought, got shredded. Josh Giddey was getting to the paint whenever he wanted to. Kobe White had a bunch of layups. And I think having Haywood Highsmith out there, who's Miami's best perimeter defender, especially with Jimmy Butler out, could have... I think Eric Spoelstra might have cost the team the game with some of the rotation stuff, but it's hard to blame him when every night he's kind of doing this hot hand thing. It's like, I know Tyler's going to be in there. I know Bam's going to be in there. And I don't know who the other 3 are going to be. And he just sort of ends up sticking with Rozier down the stretch. I don't know. This, to me, this is the symptom of we don't know who our best 5 are. We don't know who our closing 5 are. And when you do know who those guys are, the end of these games are just a little bit easier. This was Miami's 7th game where they've led by double digits this season and lost. Wow. That's a problem.
Hey, look, man. Sometimes you just run into Ayo Dosunmu and Matas Buzelis on the wrong night. What can you do? No, I agree. I mean, and especially considering I think it's good for both their short and long term that they can start Khalil and Bam, right? That's worked well. They both played decently in this game, at least from just reading the box score. But that is not two creators. So you're kind of boxing in who the other players can even be in a lineup that you're going to have the right size and skills on the floor. And then it's like, okay, well, we need a perimeter defender if we're going to go with those two both. And then you go to Heisman, then it's like, wow, you really have no dribbling and shooting on the floor. It's just a lot of puzzle pieces to put together. They have a lot of guys. I mean, you could speak to this better than me, but I feel like they're like specialists or like way better on one end than the other. And so you have to sacrifice something to get them on the floor and at the expense of someone else a lot of the time. And that's, especially in games where the other team's got a hot hand out there, it's hard to work through that. So there are nights where it will work and they'll Spoke and push the right buttons, and that's great. And Bam can hit a buzzer beater and they win. But there are often nights where that won't be the case until they figure out how to figure out the right starting five or just one more. I feel like from my external point of view, because Rozier's been so bad, one more guy who can like reliably dribble and doesn't shoot it so poorly every night would go a long way for them.
They need a playmaker. They need an advantage creator. Jimmy Butler would have helped for this team. But turns out he doesn't want to help this team. But let's go to your game in Portland. Pacers win the game. Or I'm sorry, Pacers lose the game 112 to 89.
Nobody beats the Blazers, Wes. Come on.
All right, before we get to the Blazers, or whatever, what happened here?
The Blazers are awesome, apparently.
The Blazers are awesome.
I mean, look, I've watched them a little recently, not a lot because they're usually pretty late on, but they play so physical now. Like Ayton just kicks people's butt on the glass, and he didn't even play that much because he was in foul trouble. And Avdija is tough as nails, and Simons is hitting shots, and Jeremy Grant's a little better, and Kamara is so good on defense. Tony Kamara was plus 33 in this game. He shut Halbert down. And that's not even like a stretch. He shut him down in this game. And Scoot is actually good now. That's also not a joke. And so all of a sudden they have like quality ball handling on the floor at all times. They have a tough as nails front court. They have good defenders. Like they're not a good team, although maybe they are because they've won 9 of 10. But like these pieces make sense on like a roster when they're clicking that would win games. And they are. They just, I mean, look, the Pacers are on a travel back-to-back out of the altitude in Utah.
Right.
And 3rd and 4 nights, like they were going to lose, right? Like they've won in Portland once since 2007, which sounds hilarious to say, but
that's crazy.
Yeah, it is. It is crazy. But they even with all the context of all that, they got humbled. I mean, Portland kicked their butt. It was unbelievable.
So like they've won 9 of 10, and it's not like this cupcake schedule. They've beaten the Heat, the Magic, the Bucks, the Suns, the Pacers. Like these are good teams. I think they beat the Magic and the Suns twice.
Suns twice. Yeah.
And again, when you're Portland, pretty much all the teams are better than you, or at least they were. So winning any of these games is a huge deal. And then these are some pretty like playoff positioning type teams. I'm going to read you just some stats here. I mean, DeAndre Ayton during this stretch, 21.5 points per game on 61% shooting, 13 rebounds per game. Denny Avdija, 19 points per game on 7.5 rebounds, 4.5 assists. Anthony Simons, 18 points a game, shooting 40% from three. Scoot Henderson, he's averaging 15 points, 6 assists.
He looks
turnovers
good.
down.
He looks good.
Yeah. He might be the biggest reason behind all of this because now all of a sudden they have this playmaker type who makes it so that Simons and Shaedon Sharpe don't have to do this stuff anymore where they were kind of miscast in those roles. And, you got a bunch of guys. Toumani Camara has been awesome. And if I were a team before the deadline, I'd be like, first-round pick, 2 first-round picks? Like, what's it going to take? Yeah. This guy should be playing for a competitor team. On the minimum. He's one of the great contracts in the league right now. So congrats to the Blazers. Chauncey Billups, I think, has been doing a really good job coaching lately, too. He deserves a shout-out. And it does not sound like you're too concerned about the Pacers part of this.
No, they won 7 road games in a row and not 9 of 11. They had the best record in the NBA since January 1st. They just played awful. And to be clear, it's not good that they played awful. In fact, I will lead my podcast with Tyrese Halliburton took 3 shots, his fewest as a Pacer ever, the 3rd fewest in his career. That's some Kamara. That's some Tyrese Halliburton, who's a very much a field player and had no field tonight at all. They can't have that if they're going to win, similar to what the Heat are dealing with a little bit with their stars not being good enough. But they all stunk. Everybody but Andrew Nembhard stunk. They'll try to bounce
star
back.
Is not suspended indefinitely and trying to burn the entire organization to the ground. I think in that sense, it's
yes, it's a little bit different. Hey, Jimmy Butler and Tyrese Halliburton both with 0 points tonight for their team. So,
very good. Pacers 4th place in the Eastern Conference after that little winning streak that you're talking about. We're going to talk about a crazy ending in Brooklyn that you had to see to believe after this? Today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night is brought to you by BetterHelp. What are some of your relationship green flags? We often hear about the red flags that we need to avoid, but what if we focused more on identifying the positive signs in our relationships, those green flags? If you're not sure what they look like, therapy can help you identify them. Actively practice them and even embody that green flag energy yourself. Whether you're dating, married, building a friendship, or just working on yourself, therapy can help you form relationships that love you back. Therapy helps you develop healthy boundaries, improves your communication skills. It empowers you to set clear examples and expectations and express your needs in relationships. Therapy provides tools for managing conflict in ways that strengthen your connections rather than break them down. BetterHelp makes it easy by offering online therapy with over 30,000 licensed therapists to choose from. And if you need to switch therapists, you could do so at no extra cost. Discover your relationship green flags with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. We'll be right back. Thanks for making Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen every game, every night. Last 3 games on the docket here on this Tuesday night of hoops. We're going to start in Brooklyn. Crazy ending to this one. Before we even describe what happens, before we even talk about it, I want to hear from Locked On Rockets host Jackson Gatlin. He is apoplectic after this.
Embarrassing doesn't even begin to describe it as the Houston Rockets fall 99-97 to the Brooklyn Nets. Look, this is a Nets team that just beat this Rockets team a few nights ago, and the Rockets were hoping to get their revenge. And it looked like they were well on their way to achieving that. They were up 4 points with less than 10 seconds to go. And it wasn't a pretty game. They were in a dogfight again with a bad Brooklyn Nets team. But you were on your way to a win. A win is a win. And all you had to do was defend the three-point line. But that doesn't mean give up a wide open three-pointer, which is exactly what happened. And Keon Johnson, nobody near him, drills a wide open three. And then the Rockets still in control of the game. They had a 1-point lead. They had a timeout. Amin Thompson could have run the baseline, could have looked for a better passing opportunity, could have called a timeout. Didn't do any of that. Instead, forced an awful entry pass to Dillon Brooks, who didn't even make an attempt to collect the basketball. And then it just bounces and then rolls into the lap of D'Angelo Russell, who splashes a three-pointer to give the Nets the 2-point lead. 6 points in less than 6 seconds of game time. Absolutely unreal turnaround. Rockets had a few seconds left for the final possession of the game. Jalen Green got an okay look at the would-be game winner, missed it, and that's all she wrote. An absolutely embarrassing loss, complete collapse at the end of this game for a Houston Rockets team that is now riding a 4-game losing streak for the first time this season.
Bad for Jackson, kind of fun for us.
Tony,
that was fun at the end.
Yeah, if you were at this game or just a fan of not either of these two teams, you should watch this game because 21 lead changes. Nobody led by more than 8 all night. It was always close and back and forth. That's really fun. And the end was insane. And find a clip of it if you can. Jackson only sold one thing short, and that is the ball bounces in. It's a foot away from Dillon Brooks. Tosan Bowman, a two-way player, scoops it up. If I'm him, I'm panicking. What do? We're down 2. We just got a miracle. He just calmly flips it right to D'Lo for a perfect 3. It was like they planned it. It was perfect execution of that.
This was what D'Angelo Russell was born to do.
Chuck on the Nets. Go Chuck on the Nets.
Be on a bad Nets team that with zero expectations and just hit ice cold game winners. You don't ever see him unless he's doing exactly this, right? When it doesn't work for D'Lo, doesn't matter. Out of sight, out of mind.
When it does the rest of the game.
What was he?
He was 3 for 15 with 10 points. He stunk all night.
I love that stat. I had no idea. He looks like the hero. This is what D'Lo was born to do. I loved it. I loved every bit of it. Sorry, Jackson. Don't mean to make fun of you, but come on. Your Rockets are in 3rd place in the West. You guys will be fine. A couple losses to an out-of-conference team. You can deal with it. Next game here. Lakers-Clippers. Lakers ran away with this one after going up by more than 20 in the second quarter. They win 122-97. They've won 9 of their last 11 games. Obviously, within that, they trade Anthony Davis for Luka Doncic. Luka was sitting on the bench, did not play. He was sitting right next to LeBron. Cool little shots of like more shots than you get of Taylor Swift at a Chiefs game. It was just LeBron and Luka just chatting it up, laughing. LeBron doing that thing where he covers his face with his hand so you don't know what he's saying. LeBron was great in this game. Big game for Austin Reeves, 20 points, 9 assists. My big question here, zooming out, because the game was honestly not all that interesting. What's Austin Reeves' role on a team with LeBron and Luka? Because Reeves, I thought his playmaking was really good. It's been very important for them all year. We obviously know like the LeBron Austin Reeves pick and roll game has been a staple of the Lakers offense for the last couple of years. Now he's going to have to take a step back. What do you think his role on a team looks like with LeBron and Luka?
Yeah, he had 2 stats in this game that will be what that's about. One is 9 assists. He will be important for handling playmaking when it's only one of those guys on the floor with him still. Think Spencer Dinwiddie in Dallas. Think any of their guards. They always have been trying to get a third guard behind Kyrie Luka for kind of exactly that. Not Austin Reeves is better than Spencer Dinwiddie, but that kind of thing. And he took 7 threes in this game, and he's a good shooter, and he's going to have the easiest threes of all time for the next couple of seasons of his career. And that's going to be the thing I think he's got to adjust to the most, is where to stand and when to move and keep his hands up. But being that tertiary creator is really important, right? Like it helped the Mavs a lot when PJ Washington could kind of do it a little bit. Like, they hoped Clay could do it a little bit. They're that kind of player, and that's hard to do. It's a big adjustment from what he does now, but his shots will be easier in a way that will make him look effective if he makes them. So that's kind of what I envision for him. What do you think?
Yeah, the same, right? Because you're probably going to stagger LeBron and Luka quite a bit. And so having Austin Reeves as that second guy, he kind of just does the same thing. It's just learning to do it. He knows how to do it with LeBron. He's going to have to learn how to do it off of Luka, and that'll take some time. I don't know if it'll happen this season or if that'll really coalesce next season, but that's a really important role. You mentioned the shooting. Defensively, he's got to be really good too.
Really good.
And if he can get better defensively, and there's nights where he tries really hard and he really competes. I kind of know who the Lakers' best 4 players are, and they'll probably be closing with obviously Luka, LeBron, Austin Reeves, and Dorian Finney-Smith, and it's finding the 5th player there, and it's probably going to be a rim protector that hopefully for them they acquire before the deadline on Thursday. So I think Reeves is fine. I think some of the things about he's expendable now, trade Reeves for a center. Like maybe if the center is really good, like I'm not saying Reeves is off limits, but I think he's still got a really important role to play.
Agreed.
He was always probably overtaxed as that second playmaking option with the Lakers, because it never really came together for Anthony Davis in that way. Kind of being in this third role is almost perfect for him. And by the way, he's only making like $12 million, $13 million, whatever. He's got a great salary. So he's not even being overpaid in that role either. This is kind of the perfect spot for him.
I think they need to figure out if they can get like Valanciunas with Vanderbilt or Vincent money, right? I think that would make a lot of sense, because they do definitely, even if it's not a good rim protector, they just need A5 with any sort of actual size. Like Jackson Hayes. Sorry, like he's just not good enough.
Rumors today about maybe they're looking at Steven Adams on expiring. That could make some sense.
Yeah.
Capella name has been out there.
Hey, Wes, Bronny's first 3. All right. History.
And I couldn't tell, was LeBron tying his shoe when it happened? I couldn't really did he miss it? I couldn't really tell.
He will tell you in years he did not miss it. He knew it was going to happen that night.
He'll be like, look, I saw it and then I tied my shoe. I always know when exactly to tie my shoe. I'm the best at it. That sounded almost like a presidential impression, but it wasn't. Finally, in Toronto, the Knicks took care of business, beat the Raptors 121-115. Karl-Anthony Towns dominated. 27 points, 20 rebounds. The Knicks have won 10 of their last 14 games. And we have concluded Locked On NBA Game Night.
Jalen Brunson, underrated.
Jalen Brunson's underrated?
Yes. Jalen Brunson's so good.
Top 10 player in the league?
I think so, yes.
Top 5?
No.
I'll go top 10. Locked On NBA Game Night, every game, every night. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.